8th of September 2013 to continue the last video from yesterday. I presented the fact that for 20 years I've been developing a framework to translate clinical phenomenology into presumed brain disturbances, which is titled Clinical Brain Profiling. And I mentioned that it is a long time process, actually starting in the beginning of the 90s, 1990, when I just started my residency. And the idea came to me by general intuition that the brain is a complex physical system, and that any understanding of the brain will have to involve physics of complex systems. But more specifically, the first idea to investigate theoretical aspects of mathematical models of neural networks, neural computation models, started when in the beginning of the residency we once got one of the lectures about the serotoninergic synapses and the activity of SSRIs, serotonin-specific reuptake inhibitors. And our tutor taught us that when you have an event in the synaptic space, that neurotransmitter can be altered, and thus altering the receptor formation and the activity of the neuron. And then it came to me as a natural assumption to take 2 or 3, let's assume 3 neurons, and align them in one near the other in such a way that one activates the other. And the assumption immediately would be that if you make an modification of the activity of the first synapse, then there surely should be a different activity on the next synapse for the next neurons. So I came up to my teacher at that time and I asked him about it, and he said that there is no way to measure that because we don't really know the activity of each neuron, and the way that this is studied is like a summation function by taking a rat brain and decomposing it and then using spectrogram to investigate the serotonergic activity. So I came home that day and there was on TV a program about black holes in the atmosphere. And there the presenter said that because black holes in the cosmos, we cannot reach them, then we cannot study them directly, but we can study them using a model. We take the mathematical information that we have assumed and that we have taken till today about the black hole in the cosmos, and then we take this information and we create a model, a mathematical model of the black hole, and then we investigate the model itself. This idea was very appealing to me, and immediately I thought about the ability to take neurons and model their activity. Each one is a processor that sums up input and outputs threshold function, summation function of the input, and this could be mathematically described. And I immediately thought we can build a model of many neurons together and create like a network, a neural network, a brain simulation. And of course, immediately I found out by looking at the literature that such a thing already existed, and I found out the vast literature of neural network, neural computation, which was just beginning at those days. And of course, this took me by an enthusiastic effort to learn neural computation. And to make a long story short, I went into this field and studied it in an informal way. I had people help me, and I actually did my basic science in the residency by creating a neural network model that simulates thought disorders in schizophrenia patients. So working with these models, I got the intuition of how theoretically the brain could organize in an optimal manner, and I started formulating mental disorders as disturbances to optimal brain organization. Initially, the idea of disconnection syndrome was very appealing, especially because there was a lot of data in the literature, and today there is even more data about disconnection dynamics in psychosis. And I already predicted that 20 years back, and in our model actually disconnection dynamics caused the network to jump from one concept to another, simulating loosening of associations. And by working with those models, I got the intuition that overconnectivity can simulate reduced activity in the network and the negative symptoms, schizophrenia, and so on, developing this phase by phase, step by step, partially with actually models and partially by thought experiments. I realized that the whole of the spectrum of mental disorders can be actually reconceptualized as a global disturbance to global brain organization. And recently I'm actually trying to write about it under the title of globalopathies, meaning that there are pathology of global organizations. And gradually I developed this and reached the point where I could formulate it specifically and generate a web-based computer program translator where you can actually put in the data, the clinical data of the patient. That would be signs and symptoms from the mental status examination, from the patient history, and then this program, by a click of a button, computes the predicted disturbance in the brain, which is presented as a vector of entries. Each entry describes to what extent some specific typical disturbance occurs in the brain. For example, disconnection, overconnection, and constraint, frustration, or optimization disturbances. Each of them detailed and explained in a few papers that I've published on the website. And doing such a project gave me the idea that the whole field might merit a new name, and instead of psychiatry or neurology, this field could merit a title of itself, and I termed it neuroanalysis, just like psychoanalysis, but taking out the psych, because it's not a scientific terminology. And already Maynard in 1800 has declared that the term psych of psychiatry is a historical terminology and we should not use it. So I actually followed Maynard and I took out the psych from psychoanalysis and put in the neuro. So now it is titled neuroanalysis, and my website is neuroanalysis.org.il, and I hope that under this title I can develop a framework for brain-related, brain-based psychiatric diagnosis, which I title clinical brain profiling. Clinical meaning clinical phenomenology, and brain profiling is the profile of the disturbance, and thus having etiological diagnosis for psychiatry. So this is like a very brief short background relating to what I have been trying to do, like in 20 years, trying to explain it in 5 minutes, and this is it for now.